listening to atoms, motion, and the void. It was very simple how it worked between the boy and I. A sense of mutuality, of something shared between us, like the skin of our souls. As the boy dropped into sleep below the covers, the same great urge for unconsciousness overtook me. I hastened outside and fought to keep my eyes open beneath the draping lashes of the willow tree. A dark night with dark breezes, and my eyes winching smoke like blown-out candles. This was my house, my street, my willow, and this was then, long ago. My parents sleeping, myself asleep, in the quiet blue house. I crossed the night-slick grass, stooped above the silver creek, where, in the steady amber light of the day, the crayfish shot and played. And then around the neighborhood I roved, like an old coat hunting for its closet. I followed the glimmer of my interest from the sandbox to swings, stopping inside our neighbors' doorless shacks to examine the lined rakes and shovels until the sun came up, doing rounds, as it were, forgetting where my bed was. The street grew wet with morning, and in the ink and vinegar light of dawn the grass began to shake with greenery, haloed in yellows so just cut. The trees stood about like flightless birds, the leaves like feathers flying. The night all out of tremble now, I carried myself beside the brightening morning brook, eyeing the forbidden woods. What was beyond the woods? I used to ask my mother. More woods, she said. And what's beyond those more woods? Even more woods, and more woods after that, she answered. And then, I asked. Then trees, she said, smirking behind the laundry, not interested. And then, I persisted. And then another forest, I'm sure, she said. As a boy, I tested this infinity and had gone off exploring with a metal canteen, a compass, and an apple, to see if there was a forest beyond the trees, beyond the woods, beyond the woods. What I found then, to my great happiness, I would find again, now, to my great relief. I hopped across the creek at a narrow spot, and then made my way up, through the woods, rising over the hill, to where my cabin stood, in the slipping fog and the swinging beams of summer's morning clamor. I had been here before, found it as a boy so long ago. There's a cabin in the woods, I told my mother, near the top of the hill with a view out to the valley, and you can see our roof from there. There's no cabin, she said. There is, I insisted, but she was not interested in what I'd found and didn't care about this discrepancy to her theory of the endless woods. She piled towels and told me sharply not to go off like that. It wasn't good for boys to get too far from home. But that is where I live, I told her. I didn't mean it exactly, or I meant it as a form of play or experiment, though not at all as a joke. She looked at me quickly behind the linen. Don't say things like that, she said. You must never go there again. But I continued to go there as often as I could, and felt no violation to her ruling. If it wasn't good for boys to get too far from home, then I was, at the deepest level, following her law. For I felt at once that the cabin was my place of rest and comfort, my familiar center and most prime residence. I would sit out on the porch with my lunch. I would rest inside on the soft chair and read. I would lay down on the bed and stare at the ragged ceiling swirls of moon-grey paste, and know what it felt like in my bones to truly live here, what it truly meant to be myself, to be home. I did not wonder of the former occupant. There was no such creature, and I had no question or fear about the place. It was my own. Even that first time, when I broke free of the infinite forest, I did not pause, but fell forward into it as though into a wanted embrace. There was something, mostly of myself, in the cabin, my own ancient scent, the flavor of my future, the meaning and temper of my life. I would spend my life alone, I knew it then, by the lingering silent mood, my body slightly separate from the rest. There was a sadness in this knowledge, a monk's grief and joy of what would and would not be, that all things meet and go together from the same place, and here I touched it, in the way we are made of water, in the way we become soil, in the way we grow then upwards in the grass, flowers, trees, are then consumed and fall by animal, by endless light. I was alive when I was here, I was home. For my entire short life until that moment, I had been kept under glass, tapping a small hammer to break free into the full, wide open air of life. Here, finally, the glass was gone, and all the glassed-up rest of it, my entire life in the little blue house beyond the forest, was, and would ever be, nothing but sleep, held together in the illumination of an ongoing, holy daydream.
Though I know it's not the same, it starts up every game, so it swings hard and low. Think I'll take my things and go, so untied and burden free, down sidewalks light and sweet. All I know is that it seems completely like a dream. Holy, 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 holy daydream. Though I know it's not the same. Holy, 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 holy daydream. So it swings hard and low. Holy, 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 holy daydream. So untied, burden free. Holy, 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 holy daydream. All I know is that it seems completely like a dream. Holy, 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 holy daydream. Holy, 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 holy day.
For a short while, after finding the cabin as a boy, and being so struck by its familiarity and peace, I searched to discover the conduit or object of commission. I looked slowly through the dusted clutter, the books and utensils, the coats and hats and canes, the logs, the ash in the fireplace, the cups and plates, the layered shirts in the bureau. Eventually, my little self would lift the outsized clothes from their closet hangers, put them slowly on, don the hat tap the cane, and go out wandering in the nearby woods in the fullest make-believe of absolute truth, disguised as my one-day self. But of course, I could find no element, writ or deed, no object that proved my homecoming. In that morning light, as my old ghost arrived at the cabin, the bonded urge for sleep dissolved. The boy must himself have woken. I sat on the steps with the book from the Westbrook station and named it the Book of Privy Council, which I inscribed as darkly as I could in pencil on the cover. There is an ancient book already by that name, but this would be my own version of it, a book of recollection, of stories, not memories exactly, but a book of the bottommost truth, and I would write it alongside myself as I lived it. The rest of my days would be this. The ghost would follow beside the boy I was to oversee and guide him from the distance into his manhood and old age. Yet what I would enter in pencil on the pages would not be my life in some streaming catalogue of detail or event, but the metaphorical equivalent, where I might come away injured from a fight or feeling badly from being wrong or wronged at school, or lost and then hopeless, as I would continue to find myself so undrawn to any level of society, to any proper career, to the blood instinct of family or community, and in such places create my person. From the detritus of such damage, from all these then in the book, I would mark down my recollection of the deeper story, which itself would be the secret undoing of every self-injury. The book would contain the story of his life, subtracted from his broken version of events. Where he would suffer, I would remain steadfast. My denials, furies, griefs, rejections, arrogance, difficulties, every mistaken notion would get its revision by means of metaphor and story, which I would set to stand beside the inebriation of my misjudgments, the old ghost whispering gently beside the shouting sadness of the boy. From the porch now, in the morning light, I turned and looked down into the valley. I could see the grey peak of our house on Washington Street. Today, tomorrow, later, soon, the boy would appear at the forest edge. Without hesitation, he would come through the meadow grass. He would not see me sitting here in the way I was, but from the moment of his arrival, he would know himself to be home through my own agency, through my own presence, which was altogether and only his, through the completed arrival of himself. I went inside. I had work to do at the desk in the corner. I sat down, pushed aside the microphone and headphones of the broadcast station, opened the book of Privy Council, and began to write our first metaphor, a version of our first story together. It would be the small truth of his coming life, about the cabin, about exploring the forbidden void of the woods, about the difficult way he would make, and the isolated style and silent mood of his coming life. When he was here, I would whisper to him such things that he would nearly hear, and when he was not, I would speak to him by way of the world. I would send my voice into the deepest air and speak to him in private, in secret, as the ghost of the world, the ghost of the radio. Later, the stories would become ornate, more diffuse and enigmatic, more metaphorical. But for now, I began quite simply. Our cabin became a rocket, and I became the captain of the rocket. He would be as he was, a boy not quite yet home, with a very special blue rock named Spinny. And this first story would be the story of our meeting. I would tell him everything I could about us, to get him ready for his long trip away, the broken pilgrimage we all must make, and to prepare him for his journey back home. He would listen in his room, laying quietly on the floor beside the radio, and the moment he turned the knob, I would start.
Countdown for blast off. X minus 5, 4, 3, 2, X minus 1, fire. From the far horizons of the unknown come transcribed tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future, adventures in which you'll live in 1,000,000 could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company, in cooperation with Street and Smith, publishers of astounding science fiction, presents...
Rocketing the board. All hands on deck. It's time to blast off for another adventure with Captain Thomas. Rocketing the void. By scanning alien galaxies with only his trusty talking spaceship, 1011. The company. Every week, a new planet, new monsters, and you. Rocketing the boy.
Get back home.
Captain Atomic.
All alone in space.
Captain Atomic.
Landing on planets.
Captain Atomic.
Fighting off aliens.
Captain Atomic.
Trying to find a friend.
Captain Atomic.
Trying to find a friend.
Captain Atomic.
Rocketing the void.
Captain Atomic.
Rocketing the void.
Captain Atomic.
Rocketing the void.
Captain Atomic. Captain Atomic. Rocketing the void.
I probably should have ignored the advertisement, but there was a picture of a man on a rocket on a far-off planet, and the heading, "Never get lonely, never found your niche." I was immediately intrigued. That's me, I thought, and I played a game of Remember the Time. Remember the time I was a boy on Washington Street. I had no friends growing up. My parents were unreachable. I spent my entire young life inside the ticking sound of a grandfather clock. When I first read Peter Pan, I fell in with the pirates. Captain Hook and his dreaded clock and hard-swallowing enemy were doubly familiar to me. But my alligator was the world itself. And so I applied for the job of spaceman and shot off into the dark night of the universe, never to return. Mission Log 1. We'd followed a curious meteorite or possible comet, and 11 wasn't sure, but he thought it might be Freeman's Comet. If so, it would lead us directly back to Earth. Unfortunately, a huge iron and wood planet stepped in front of and then caught the comet, like the third strike of the third out, bottom of the ninth, Game 7 of the World Series. And 11? What is it?
The trajectory has been tracked and plotted.
Well, I don't know what good that'll do us now.
It means that even though the comet crashed into the wood and iron planet, I know its trajectory coordinates. I don't need the comet to follow in its footsteps, as it were.
Well, that's great news, N11. We'll finally get home. Back to Earth?
Yes, in about 4.7 years.
Better than never. Plot a course, N11, and let's take her home. N11?
There is one stupendous impediment.
And what's so unstupendous and impedimentary about getting home?
It's not that. I'm sure it will be delightful to get home in 4.7 years. The problem is this. I am only 84.6% certain that the comet that smashed into the iron and wood planet is Freeman's comet.
84.6% sounds an awful lot like 100% to me. Wait a minute. I hope you're not suggesting...
I am. I have packed you a lunch, and your OCHME suit is fresh from the dry cleaners, as it were.
You mean...
I'm afraid so. We must confirm that it is Freeman's comet. Luckily, the Freeman comet has a known consistency of blue stonium. Your mission is to find a piece of the blue stonium and bring it to me for chemical spherics. It's the only way to be sure, and we will tolerate nothing less than 100%.
Well, I've always wanted to visit Old Ironsides.
I'm sorry.
Oh, a ship from the old days of Earth. A three-master made of iron and wood called Old Ironsides. It's a joke, N11.
Not much of a... Strap in, Captain Atomic. The descent to Old Ironsides may be rollicking and full of chop.
You know I'm always hungry for chop suey. Whoa! N11! Touchdown made me sleepy.
I have successfully landed at the epicenter of the debris field.
And now I suppose you need me to go out and get you one of these blue rocks.
If you would be so kind.
Don't you ever wish, just for once, that you could reach out with a tail fin and scoop up a handful of soil?
It is my one regret that the designers failed to provide me with arms. But then again, I have you.
Is that all I am to you? A set of arms? Ah, forget it. I'm ready. Can you open the hatch? I'm all thumbs in this mummy suit. Long-range scan sees no sign of life, but that's not surprising. It's pretty amazing, Old Ironsides is. It's perfectly smooth and flat, polished even, like a big brown marble. And that comet doesn't look to have made any impact at all. Like someone dropped a cobalt kitchen glass, and the pieces shattered on my brand new iron and wood linoleum floor.
I suggest you collect a sample and return to the ship with all due haste.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry?
Surface temperature is rising.
Well, maybe Old Ironsides is just happy to see me.
Captain Atomic, I really must insist.
Well, hold on. I'm picking something up. I'm gonna check it out.
I utterly recommend that you collect the blue stonium and return to the ship at once.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the little cotton sticker on my spacesuit reads, Captain. What's yours read?
I have no such costume, and thus lack all signifying stickers.
Also, no arms. So complain all you like. But I'm going to check out the anomaly on the other side of this hill.
I thought you said it was flat and smooth.
I always say that, so you don't worry.
I would remember that were it so.
Not if I request a data wipe of the last 16 seconds.
You wouldn't.
Consider it an order.
Erasing. Erased. Now, what were you saying?
I'm checking out an anomaly just beyond this next set of smoothness. And keep it to yourself if you'd prefer that I didn't.
I'd really prefer it if you didn't.
Noted and logged, Bartleby the Scrivener.
Bartleby the Scrivener is a short story by the American writer Herman Melville. The story of a man who increasingly declined all offers and invitations of life by means of the phrase, I would prefer not to. Oh, I see now, sir. Very clever.
Thanks for the book report, Edwin Dooge.
Edwin Dooge.
Oh, he was a kid in my 4th grade class. Very, very skilled at book reports. Oh my goodness, N11.
What is it, Captain Atomic?
I need help.
I'll do anything.
If only you had arms.
Sir. Captain Atomic.
I'm just kidding, N11.
What?
Actually, quiet. I'm seeing something.
What is it?
Small, moving slowly. Oh my.
Tell me.
It's a little boy. Open the hatch, N11, and get the spare bedroom ready. We're having guests.
Yo-ho, yo-ho, brush, let's all have our voice, whichever you've the notion.
50 cents for shaving cream, $1 for the lotion.
Old Spice means quality, said the captain to the bosun. So look for the package with the ship that sails the ocean. Yo-ho, 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 yo-ho.
This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Clean pots and pans, just like a whiz.
Ajax cuts grease faster than any other leading cleanser.
Use the pain, the elbow tax, when you start cleaning with Ajax.
Ajax really polishes as it cleans.
So use Ajax, the foaming cleanser. Flush the dirt right down the drain.
My gosh, they're right. Foaming action Ajax makes even the dirtiest pan shine like new in a jiffy.
So use Ajax.
Captain Thomas, rocketing the void.
Is he sleeping, N11?
Very sound asleep. By the looks of things, he's very lucky that we chanced upon this planet. Were you able to learn much more?
Well, you can listen here to my space helmet voice recorder. When I saw the boy, the first thing he did was show me what he had in his hand.
And what was that?
Just listen.
I found a blue rock on my planet, and I brought it home, and I named it Spinny because it spins.
Fascinating. Did he say anything else?
Only that he's been here his entire life.
Alone?
As I understood it, yes. He didn't remember his parents, or much of what happened.
Perhaps he's meant to live that way. It may be his natural habitat.
Well, his natural habitat is here with us now, N11. You, me, and the little boy. By the way, any results yet from your chemical spherics regarding the Bluestonium?
Yes. Bad news, I'm afraid.
It's not from Freeman's comet.
No.
Will you mind returning the sample to me? I think it would do wonders for the little boy if he could keep something from his home planet.
He's welcome to have it. Shall we depart, old Ironsides?
Yes. Let's hit the blasters. Rocket set to hot. And you know what, N11? Just for the sake of, well, hope. Let's follow the plotted path of that comet. I know it wasn't Freeman's, but let's just for a short time anyway. Just imagine ourselves heading home.
Very well, Captain. Coordinates spotted. And let me say how pleased I am that we're finally heading home.
Me too, N11. Me too. What you hear at the end as you're lying in bed, rock-a-bye, lullaby, and that's the end. As you fall into sleep, all alone as you breathe, every dream is a truth and a lie. What you hear at the end as you're lying in bed, rock-a-bye, lullaby, and that's the end. As you fall into sleep, all alone as you breathe, every dream is the truth and a lie. Every day thereafter, until it all turned back on itself, it would be as this. He would visit me in the cabin, and when he left, I would follow him over the world. I would return to the cabin in the afternoon alone, and I would rewrite the story of his day into another adventure of Captain Atomic. As he grew older, and for those many long years when he moved far away from the cabin to ingratiate himself into the broken dream of the city, to follow his own plans and burning ambitions, I hid more deeply within the dial, within the world, and he did not always, or often, hear me. But I was always there, and when through incident or need he would hear me, he would suddenly stop and sit and listen and remember. For I am the dream of such undoing and the song of such unshaping and the story of myself. It will seem, but is not quite the case, that the one who listens is the one who needs me. But it is I who needs and requires the listener, for in them I am, upon the listening. For my life now, from this point forward and this point backward, I will walk beside myself and mark down that which happened far below the surface of events, that which I could not see at the time for the blindness of the dream of the world, that I might not forget, which keeping itself shall be the blessing of thy wounds. I yield to thee, I belong to thee, I inhabit thee, I call to thee, I long for thee and require thee. I am thine own, and thou art mine. I am beholden to thee, I am yet, if thou art not. I shall put myself ever in thy way in such a constancy that with the slightest turn ye shall find me. In the smallest things shall I be, that I may always beckon to thee, that thou shalt remember me, and in so doing remember thyself, and in so knowing be free to the limit of the stars, as black as the night, as glistened as the sun, as always going home, as ever beyond the forest of the forest's forest. Always merry and bright. I am the ocean. I am the mountain. I am the river. I am the ground. I am the silence. And I am the sound. And by I, of course, what is completely meant is you.
I am the ocean, I live where I drown. The moon turns me over, the sun burns me down. I am the mountain, I rise like a wing. The wind is my shepherd, the trees are my king. What can I do? What can I listen to the trees and the birds and bees and the lark and shell and the church and bell. Blessed is the breeze on the whistling leaves and the wishing well and the whispering yell. Blessed are the trees and the birds and bees and the lark and shell and the church and bell. Blessed is the breeze on the whistling leaves and the wishing well and the whispering yell. I am the river and I am the ground. I am the silence and I am the sound. I am the atom that can't be destroyed. I am the motion and I am the void. What can I do? What can I listen to the trees and the birds and bees and the lark and shell and the church and bell. Blessed is the breeze on the whistling leaves and the wishing well and the whispering yell. I am the ocean, I live where I drown. The moon turns me over, the sun burns me down. I am the mountain, I rise like a wing. The wind is my shepherd, the trees are my king. What can I do? What can I do?
You've been listening to Atoms, Motion, and the Void